Good day and welcome back to my channel. In this video we are going to cover the base painting, the application and chipping of the whitewash, the oil work, and the mud layout that then sets the tone for the application of the snow in the final steps. So let's get started.
Okay, so with the base paint down, I'm going to give the body a quick shot of a matte sealant. Now, I really don't need to, right? So I used the Vallejo Russian green. So this is what I used to give me my base coat. And that's pretty good. I mean, once it cures up, which it pretty much has at this point, I don't need to worry about reactivating it or rubbing it off. But just in case, right, I'm going to give it a quick shot of a sealant and an acrylic matte varnish. And I actually wanted to share this because this is actually interesting. This is the first time I've tried this. Not the first time, but I've just recently found this, and I absolutely love it. So when it goes down, and this is the only real reason I'm sharing this, because everybody's got their preference, right, on what's the best varnish, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I like using matte varnish, not gloss, before I put down transfers and so forth. But I prefer the matte varnish when I work with my models. The only real reason I'm sharing this one is because of how it works, and I want to point out just what this thing looks like. So I'm going to hit the top of this with this varnish. I wanted to look at it. There. See how I mean, I really didn't hit it hard. I just kind of gave it a quick zot. And you can see there, like around here, how it really looks like it's pulled up. So when I first used this stuff, I was like, oh my God, I just ruined it. I ruined my model. I laid this super thick, gloppy coat down. No. I've already hit the top. I've already hit the turret. And this is what the turret looks like. So I'm going to let this dry. And it takes a bit to dry. So I'm just going to walk away. And I will come back later after this has had a chance to dry and show you just what this turns into. So like I said, this is really the only reason I'm sharing this, is because this is what this looks like when it's wet. And we'll come back in a minute and show you what it looks like when it's dry. Okay, so it's been about half an hour. And as you can see, it dried off nice and flat. And that's pretty much exactly what I was looking for. So we'll go ahead and we'll put on the transfers and then move on to the weathering.
And here we go. This was the scene we started off with. This is what the transfers applied and the base colors laid out. It's really straightforward. All we did is just applied base colors to the surface. I didn't bother with modulation, mostly because it's going to get lost in the whitewashing. We're now going to get started with said whitewashing, and what I'm using is the hairspray method. And once again, there are hundreds and hundreds of videos out there for how to do hairspray chipping, and I'm just going to show you what I've done. I'm still learning it. This is still new to me. I use the Aussie, and there are probably I think it came on a little thick, and we'll see here in a bit. I also make these handy dandy handles for holding it when I use my airbrush. Now I'm going to use Vallejo's Model Air Gray White, thinned with Vallejo thinner. I find that I like Vallejo, but I do find that it's a little bit challenging in an airbrush in that it tends to eventually freeze up on the needle, and there's a lot of cleaning involved. But I really like the look of this and the overall work of the paint itself. So you can see on my glove, just very, very light coat. And the key to all this is very, very light coats. You've put 2 layers of very, very thin hairspray on, and then you just layer the paint slowly. And what you will see here is I'm going to work on different areas of the thing. You don't glop it on, and I'm intentionally avoiding like the star and the 361, the number on on the model because I'm kind of doing where the crew would have bothered to put this stuff on, right? Where they would have glopped it on. But the key here is just get it on. Now you can see how it came out. I've got my whitewash on. Now it's time to clean it off. And here's where I learned some things. And again, this is new to me. Now I've seen a lot of people have to really scrub at the surface. So I just take a bit of water. And I use these cups in this display all the time. Now, I've seen them have to use kind of really scrub at things to get it to work. And I find out very quickly with the way I did it, I need to be a lot more gentle. So the combination, that hairspray and that white paint does not need a very, very harsh brush. I'm actually seeing the paint glop up and goop up. So I'm kind of cleaning it up with my cotton bud there. And this is where I'm starting to find, oops, this might be a problem. So what I do is I kind of work around where's it going to be worn off, right? So the two things I have in mind, where does the crew moving around wear off the paint? Where does the vehicle rubbing up against things wear off the paint? And where does water and rain or other weather wash this water-based paint off? So now I go back through here and I'm using this stiff brush for a little bit, and then I realize, I might want to change what I'm doing because it's just scratching it up a little harder than I want. So along about here is where I realize this isn't quite what I'm after. So I switch out and I go to a softer brush right about here, and this is just all I'm doing is getting the brush wet, and then I find that this is just working much, much better for this combination of paint and hairspray. I don't know if it's the white Vallejo paint in that it's still reactivatable at this point, because this is only about maybe 20 minutes, half an hour after I put it down. But it does not take much pressure at all, just water. So now, as I wash this off, I'm just going to imitate water flow. Like what's it like? How would water come off, or how would snow melt roll off this vehicle, and what would that do to this whitewash? And what you'll see is I'm going to fade it out. I'm going to fade it out here, and it's more visible on the turret. And on the body of the tank, we're going to do where the crew moves around. There's not a whole lot of crew moving around on the top of this turret. Obviously, this door opens up. There's water that would come down off of the corners of the doors and the gun hatch back there. You've got coming off the handles of the grab handles there. But that's pretty much how this was working. And now what I'm going to do here is the same thing. Where's the crew go? And then where would the crew be walking? And you'll see I do most of this with this soft brush because it really doesn't take long. This took me all of maybe an hour to do. And I'm learning. I am content with the process, but I am going to definitely have to do more. But as you can see here, I'm figuring out where all this white would be washing off, and then just do that. Go back and use the technique to clear off that whitewash. And this is the final product of where I ended up. This is about where I decided to stop. Now, next up is to move into where to put the mud, the dirt, and then all of the oil weathering, because a lot of this stuff is going to get softened up as I move into doing the oil weathering. So we are going to go ahead and slide into doing that now. Okay, so we have our whitewash done, and we have all of our detail parts put on, with the exception of the machine gun barrels on the front and in the back. I'm gonna break them. I know I will, and it'll just be easier for me to put them on when I'm done, because they're really we're not going to be weathering those in such a way that it'll matter, right? So the whitewash is chipped and worn as I want it to be. It's where it's going. And now it's time to actually start the weathering. Now, I could do the pin wash and then I could do the earth effects, but I think I'm going to do the other way around. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the lower hull, and I'm going to do the mud on the bottom and underneath here, get from basically the fenders down done, and then do, with the exception of the front and back, right? And then I'll do those all and sort of work my way up. Now, I didn't really do much whitewashing underneath here. I figured, you know, the crew wouldn't care. Same thing here. Now the wheels here, I am going to dry brush. I'm going to give a bit of a dry brush to give it some white, but I'll be coming back to it. I have given the tracks their overall double wash, like I did with the 152, basically using Agrexer shade and Null Oil. It just gives me the dark worn track color that I'm after, but they're pretty much going to be inundated with mud and packed snow, so a lot of that stuff's going to get lost. So I really didn't want to go into the details of it right now. What to do with the underside? Originally I was just going to go with a lot of packed snow, and I was going to do like this big, the base was going to be just packed snow. But today, and I've got a couple pictures I'll put here in a second. Today it was, you know, snow and wet and muddy, and I think I want to go that route where it's a cross between, you know, snow laying on wet mud, and it's melting, and maybe it's fallen recently, but it'll give me the opportunity to do snow, mud, ice, standing water, you know, kind of the whole gamut, right? And that's kind of what I would like to do, because that'll be a bit of a challenge. It's something that I would like to try and just see how well I can pull that off. Now the base itself, I'll have its own series, but understanding that that's what I'm going to do, that informs what I'm going to do here. So we are going to use dark earth. Remember, I used light earth when I did the 152. I'm going to use dark earth because it's got a nice muddy color, so I'm not going to have to worry about recoloring it much. And I did do a demo. I'll put a picture up here of these snow sprinkles on that. Now you get a nice look at what that looks like when it's dry. It sort of gives an icy snow paste, which is really cool. Matter of fact, I did a test here of that snow just put on one of the containers that I'm not going to use in this. So it'll let me put like packed snow on here as well as doing the actual like light snow. So that's how we're going to go and get started. We'll do the mud in here where I want the mud to be, and then we will move on. All right, so let's get started. And about this point, I'm just going to speed up, and I'll probably start over talking because while I do this, I tend to, you know, listen to music. So here we go. So in my previous video, I'd used a lighter colored version of this product, and I'm much happier with this dark earth. This gives a much better look at for mud. Now, the other thing I'm doing here is I'm, again, thinking about the environment, thinking about when, where, and how mud's going to be applied or is going to occur. So, you know, I'm applying it a little more sparingly, you know, and it's not caked in mud because theoretically snow, frozen, you wouldn't kick up quite so much, you know. So I just go around the vehicle and I get all that down. And essentially it's pretty much what you saw. Now it's time for the oils. So I go get my tools, and these brushes and these cotton buds are kind of important. And this is what I use. I just use this basic artist oil paint and Gam salt thinner. And I mix it up in a palette. So, and again, excuse my dirty hands and so forth. But essentially, all I do is I make a wash using thinner and that oil paint, and I get it in a different consistencies for what I'm after. And again, you've seen thousands of oil wash videos on the internet, so I'm not going to go into too incredibly much detail, but essentially that's what I do. It's just the very small pin wash. I go along all the edges, the panel lines, and so forth, and they do bring it out. And I am intentionally doing this after the whitewash because I want these are shadows. These are fake shadows. So I want them to show even through. If I'd done the whitewash second, then all this stuff would disappear. So I get these on, like this box here, and then I move on to the turret. And interestingly, like what I'm going to show here is I lay it on a little bit heavier on the turret because I'm trying to get some of these things to pop a little more. I'm also kind of trying to hide some of what I don't like about the way the whitewash looks up there. But going around all of the weld seams, all of the spots where dirt and stuff would collect, just like you do all over, right? Then come back with a dry brush after it's sort of set. And it took only, maybe 20-30 minutes for most of that to set. Then I just come back with a dry brush, and this brush is dry. I have no thinner on it, and I'm just blending. I'm not wiping it away, but like that spot there, you see it's now blended. It's there, but it's much more subtle. And here, like this is a perfect example. Like there and around the hatch, there's these tide marks where the thinner was and the paint was. And so I'm just going back and forth with this and then with cotton buds and blending out where it's obvious and sort of just making it fade. Right? It's like right here, especially here, right? And just go back, and it doesn't take much effort. Just a little bit of pressure will wipe away the tide mark, and then you're left with some nice convincing shadows. And you just be patient, right? Just go over it little bits by little bits and blend it to when it looks right. And that's the oil work. I mean, again, lots of video on those. So then I go ahead, I did the tracks. And again, I didn't do much of a video on the tracks because it's pretty straightforward. A wash of Agdrac Turkcity, a wash of shade of Nuln Oil. So with that said, that's where we are. Next up will be the snow effects and then the final effort on this model. So we'll put it all together. Until next time, thank you for watching and happy modeling.